I think anybody with mental health challenges in general, any getting to that point and owning it is when the freedom comes, because vulnerability is a superpower. We are looking for ways to make sure athletes don't fall into financial ruin, depression, mental health issues when they retire. The mindset is everything. It's so much more than the physical ability. Keep being of service to other people, and then abundance in life will come.
How do you pick up the pieces when you have to start from zero? How can you, once you've seen the top of the mountain, know that you have to make your way back down or fall back down and stand back up? It takes courage, it takes persistence, it takes character, it takes mental toughness. And today you're going to meet someone who's seen the top of the mountain in many ways and had to work his way back up slowly but surely. And I'm excited to introduce the one, the only Mr. Darren Prince. How are you today, sir?
I'm good, John. Thanks for having me. We finally made it happen.
We finally made it happen. I appreciate it. We were just talking a little bit before about how we're both from the same hometown, which I discovered when I was reading your book. What do you think it is about Jewish boys and basketball that seems to resonate with us so much?
I think it's all sport, to be honest with you. I don't think this is basketball. I mean, I think there's a camaraderie probably passed down generation to generation. I would hear stories from my father, uncles, grandfathers. I think there's just such a commonality of sports where when I look back now, I'm 54, some of the greatest memories were being at games with my boys or watching, certain ones with my dad and family members. I mean, there's always so many incredible memories. And I think it's kind of like when the teams win, we all win.
So I mentioned at the top you had to start from zero. You have this wild background of representing some high-profile clients: Dennis Rodman, Hulk Hogan, Magic Johnson. List goes on. Before we get into all the lessons that you've learned from those individuals, I mean, you've obviously learned some lessons from your own life experience. What was it like to start from zero after you'd been through everything that you'd been through?
I more or less lost the sense of self. I tell people as a recovered drug addict, I had to find what was really important to me. I thought it was about the external success, and just growing up in a gossipy, judgmental town like Livingston, where parents their ultimate flex is that their son or their daughter is doing great in life, which clearly I was. I got to the top of the mountain, top of the sports and entertainment industry, representing most iconic figures of all time, from Magic, like you said, Magic, Hulk, Muhammad Ali, Smoking Joe Frazier, Chevy Chase, Pamela Anderson. There was just one after the other. I created this facade, I believe, where everyone from the outside said, holy crap, it's never been somebody like Darren Prince that made a success of himself coming out of this town. But nobody realized that I was deep in the hell of my opiate addiction. I had a God moment on July 2nd, 2008, where, what was once at some point living to use turned out to using to live. I think anybody with mental health challenges in general, could be business issues, financial issues, relationship problems, health issues. I think humility and accountability and acceptance of the situation and what your role was in getting to that point and owning it is when the freedom comes, because that's when you have the opportunity to press the reset button on your life and doing the work. And I still do the work every freaking day, man, more than ever. The grind of wellness, mindfulness, helping other people, while Prince Marketing Group still stays a focal point. That's when you find out, what you're all about. And that's when you really can truly get dialed into every facet of the person you were meant to always be. And for me, I think that the most beautiful part about this journey is, here I thought it was about the biggest stars in the world, and that's what gave me that external validation for such a long time. But it's not anymore. Now I know I have self-love. I know I have self-confidence. I know I have self-esteem and self-belief. And I'm able to be selfish at times to refuel my tank to then be selfless to other people. I'm able to be mindful of people around me that might not be on the same frequency, where I have to learn to love certain individuals from a distance because I'm on a God given mission right now that's so much bigger than anything I've ever accomplished in business. And it's about saving and changing lives.
A lot of the elements that you talked about, self belief, fortitude, the self love, that's how I've come to define mental toughness. How do you define toughness? Being surrounded by all the people that you've been surrounded by, some really badass people, top wrestlers, top NBA player, Dennis Rodman, right? There's like a badassness to who he was as a player. And, I'm curious from your perspective, everything that you've learned, how are you defining tough these days?
Well, I got the baddest mofo on the planet right now. It's my guy, David Goggins.
Yeah.
So we were just together this Saturday at Lewis House, Summit of Greatness. And I just love getting time with my boy because, we're just so dialed into that frequency, Like this isn't toughness, you know what I'm saying? And I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. It comes from here and it comes from within here and it comes from within your soul. I know a lot of externally tough guys that can never come close to living in the vibration that I do and what I do every day. Do the interviews I do around the world and podcast and get on some of the biggest stages with thousands of people. And from my strength place, tell my story, tell my journey, tell my pain, talk about that my purpose came from my pain and own it, love every part of it. That's the superpower. But it's an ongoing journey, man. What I do I'm up in the morning, walking my dog. I've got my red light therapy on my bed. I've got my grounding sheets. I've got my hydrogen water. I've got my, earthing patches. I on a rigorous, 10x program with Gary Breck, who's a dear friend of mine who's 10x. I'm 54. I literally feel like I'm 24 at times. I'm in the gym 6 days a week. It's diet. It's meditation. It's working with my vibrational spiritual life coach that can go back into trauma patterns that could still create certain character defects that I want to get rid of. My 12-step meetings with my spiritual brothers and sisters, still 5 to 6 days a week that I attend, whether it's on Zoom or in person. It's my Aiming High Foundation, my 501c3 that scholarships people that are in need of treatment for mental health and substance abuse, because I don't want to forget where I came from. And I believe when you stay dialed into that frequency, when you stay dialed into that vibration of who you used to be and who you are no longer, that's where the toughness comes in. Because anybody can say, oh, good, I'm going to stop this and not do this anymore and I'm good. No, you're not good. We all got traumas, good and bad. There's plenty of good traumas. I've had friends who are up in Livingston that one of them specifically with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's not alive anymore. Passed away last year, overdose. And I tried to help him get him sober. So sometimes when you're given too much and you're over coddled and you're provided for and you get into the real world, you don't know who the hell you are. That is a trauma. You have no idea how to be self-sufficient because everything was just handed to you.
That element of self-sufficiency is another theme that we talk about, and I'm glad you brought up Goggins because he's been a massive influence in my life. His books are behind me almost to the point, like to a fault, you could say, because I pushed the needle so far. I did 1,018 pull-ups last year in 4 hours to raise money for Friendship Circle. We raised $20,000, and then reading his book was a massive catalyst in that. Like, just the ability to endure. And then not last week, the week before, I did a 58-mile ultra marathon, and last night I found out we raised over $29,000 towards the Friendship Circle. I was watching his content the night before, and he talked about this idea of mental aid stations. He talked about it in the sense that, they can be little moments in life that you can be brushing your teeth and you could be recharging. You could be grabbing a glass of water. You could be recharging. Like, it's just micro moments that you can use and leverage to recharge. And I think when we talk about toughness these days, like the ability to run with a pebble in your shoe isn't what tough is, right? It's not like the muscles and the flex. It's the ability to love yourself. It's the ability to embrace yourself, your imperfections and your stories and those moments that just take away from, contribute to who you are deep in your soul. Because if you don't love yourself, like, you won't make it through things like that. It's a lot of self-sabotage. And I'm curious, from some of the people that you've named, let's just stick with Goggins for a second. What are some of those conversations that you feel like you've had that have helped you garner some insight? What are some of the things that you've learned from David Goggins?
He published Can't Hurt Me, and 19 self-published #1 book of the year, over 7 million copies. So you can do the math on that. And when I met him in Atlanta, I gave him a couple copies of my book. Him and his wife, Jennifer, she left me alone with him in the green. I went to hand him the book, and he started looking through photos. He goes, bro, I'm going to speak like him. He goes, I know who you are, motherfucker. He goes, I've looked you up online. And he goes, yeah, I had a hell of a career. He goes, I'm going to tell you something. I put both hands on my shoulder, and he looks at me, that militant stare. He's like, now forget all them other agencies, man. I ain't like nobody else. I ain't no celebrity. I'm a blue collar guy living out my purpose. So I'm only going to freaking work with you because you're a badass motherfucker that gets it and goes to war with yourself every goddamn day. Had recovery not come into my life, had this journey not come into my life, I believe the cultural phenomenon of Goggins wouldn't be part of my world, because it's about authenticity with him and I. When we were at the Summit of Greatness event last Saturday, and we're in the green, I actually got him emotional too on this one. I go, bro, I was back in Livingston seeing my mom just a couple of days ago, and I had 4 Ubers to choose from. I just picked one. They were all like 6-7 minutes, and guy was pretty chatty that picked me up, young guy, 40 years old. And it sounded like he was going through a rough time. I just started sharing my story, 16 plus years sober. And the guy literally slams on the brakes, put the car parked, pulls over to the side of the street, turns around and goes, I can't believe this. I just got chills. I got out of a detox center this morning. I'm struggling with opiates and substances, and my insurance wouldn't cover me within 48 hours. And I looked at the guy and said, do you believe in miracles? Because God just bought you one. I said, my name is Darren Prince. I'm in a 501c3 charity called the Aiming High Foundation, named after my memoir, Aiming High. And if you really want this gift, I will scholarship you and get you into a treatment center within the next few days. And that gentleman actually is checking in today out of all days to a location in Delaware. And I told Goggins the story as he's sitting, in the chair doing his prep for the keynote. And he just got up and gave me a big up bag. Goes, bro, that is so badass. That has nothing to do with money, bro. It has nothing to do with success. That has to do with self-love, doing the work, manifestation, alignment with God. Because, like I said, the external success doesn't mean much to me anywhere. I mean, more to me because I could take care of, my girls, my work wives, my agents, my mom, my sister, people that are near and dear to me. But I live in a beautiful penthouse here in LA, and not about the crazy mansions to me anymore and all the exotic cars and the jewelry that fits me every day. I really just, when you find you and you have, I would imagine, a nice younger demographic, you will look back at those influencers that you're looking up to, and the athletes and the whatever and the cars and the flash, and realize it's not what it's about. It's truly about finding sense of self. And when you do that, you'll be aligned around the people that you're meant to be aligned about. And you'll truly find what the most important thing in life is. Not that external success isn't great, but it doesn't make you happy. I deal with some of the richest people in the world. I've met some of the richest people in the world, billionaires and multi-billionaires, and they're just not happy people because they haven't done the work. Their subconscious has so many trauma blocks and so many issues of inadequacies, and that ego is so big, and ego comes from a place of insecurity, inferiority complex type of people. And that's just not me. Now I'm able to walk into one of the biggest names in the world, and without even thinking about it, I know there's a vibration around me, and that not only I belong, but the respect that I earned and that I get is deserving because I'm right at their level. And it was never that way for Darren Prince for a long time. I've seen it. Other people have seen it. I feel it because vulnerability is a superpower. And these guys watch my content on social media, these men and women, and, these high net worth, high profile, renowned celebrities. And, just tell me how much they appreciate what I do on any given day to help people. It's just that warrior mindset, man. Life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. So even if there's challenges in business, health problems, drama, certain things going on in my life, I invite it all because the growth comes from the difficult times. Adversity reveals your character. So I embrace it. I don't learn anything about myself when life is great. I need to be in the pit a little bit. And when I'm in the pit a little bit, that's when the growth comes, as Goggins and I always talk about. Like, he tells people all the time on stages, the minute you say you're arrived, you're done. None of us ever arrived. It's a work in progress every freaking single day.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Inside the Inspired. My name is Jonathan Cohen, and I have a quick favor to ask you. If you're getting any value out of this content, please take a second to subscribe to the channel. You help us reach more people, and you can also stay up to date with all the latest content coming your way. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you in the episode. There's a metaphor for that I learned about from this other guy, Ross Edgley, where this other guy was also like, I want to say Goggins level in terms of fitness feats and otherwise, calls himself a stoic sports scholar. And he talks about fitness as this journey that everyone should start and never finish, meaning he has these building blocks for what fitness is. And at the top of the pyramid, there's no peak to represent that there is no final destination. There is no peak. You continue to explore the valley and landscape for what fitness is and what health and wellness is, and continue to, like you were saying, never act like you've arrived. And I love to hear the humility. I love to hear the ego removed, especially after everything that you've been through. But practically speaking, you do have this incredible life experience at the highest levels of managing pressure, handling personalities, navigating conflict that I think would really benefit people if we could share some sentiments and experience from what you've been through. I think Dennis Rodman is probably a prime example. You've helped navigate some of the conflict that he's been through. When dealing with any type of crisis management, what are some of your principles?
Your best. I think that just goes for everyday life too. Anybody in the workforce. And that was just a great situation where, it opened up the door for Dennis to really do something historic. And eventually at the end, it sort of did work out when Trump got to meet with Kim Jong-un. But there was a lot of, challenges and obstacles, prior to that from the first 3 or 4 trips that really put us into a place of, oh my God. I mean, I could talk about it now because they're both passed, but I knew 3 months before Smoking Joe Frazier passed that he wasn't going to make it. And it's my fiduciary responsibility to be there for him and his family, keep it out of the media. But what are you supposed to do about all the business projects that are pending and the stuff that he's meant to appear at? And, I can't fully be transparent about why he can't make it. So it's kind of staying in a place of saying whatever you need to say to make sure, the clients understand he's just not feeling well. June 12th this year, I lost Jerry West, who was the second father figure since my father passed away. I miss him dearly. There'll be a hole in my heart for a long, long time. I got to know this revered icon of the NBA world, the actual NBA logo, who would call me for advice, for mental health advice. He was very open about struggling with suicidal depression from the time he was a teenager. I had those type of talks with Dennis as well, too. Some of these guys that just have got to the top of the mountaintop, Hall of Fame, World Championship level, icons of icons on the Mount Rushmore, and the same certain traumas that they had in their life is what allowed them to be such a force for what they've done and what they've accomplished in their craft. But I've been able to just stay in a place of calmness, coolness, collective, anytime something comes up that the average human or Fortune 100 or 500 CEO, CMO, or executive be like, how in the world do you deal with this? A lot of it too, man, John, always made, my father taught me well, the personal relationship first and foremost, because anybody can make the clients I work for a ton of money. But when you have that personal bond and that trust, it makes it easier to work through challenging times with one another to get the best outcome and the best result without getting into a place of panic and all just discombobulated and all over the place. So, it's one thing I really pride myself on. I've gotten better. My 20s, I wasn't great. My 30s, I got better. My 40s, I got better. Now I'm at a point where it's almost like I'm bulletproof to almost everything that's happening. And it's the same thing with Jerry West. I knew since early March it wasn't good and had a clear schedule and couldn't communicate with people. But I knew the day was coming. And I woke up that morning. It was just terrible to wake up to hundreds of text messages and media reporters wanting to speak to me. And it's an emotional time when that happens because we're not just losing a client, we're losing a family member. We're losing a dear friend that opened up to me about everything in his life, his deepest, darkest thoughts and what he's been through, as I do to a guy like Jerry and everybody else. So we miss that because it's, to get that trust and that love and that respect and that bond, where most of these guys really don't trust a lot of people, is very, very special. But like I said, again, back to that personal relationship, I think when you have that bond, that love, that trust, anytime things could go a little bit sideways or a little bit crazy, it makes it a lot easier to get through it.
So it sounds like the main aspect of navigating conflict is handling the people that are involved and managing those relationships and making sure they're comfortable and that you have their back, and also keeping the information close to the chest. So this way there's no compromising their trust, and continuing to prioritize their health and wellness, their mental health and wellness, because there's news cycles and things change, and what's first and foremost, it sounds like, is the relationship.
That's it. Like I said, they're family. I mean, nothing comes before the trust that I have with my clients. And I'm going to have a lot of Wall Street friends, brokerage, hedge fund guys that grew up with. I remember when I first started getting involved in representing, talent. And obviously it's not just talent. These are some of the most revered icons in the world. They're like, oh, can I speak to them about this? It's no, that's not why I'm here. I don't care how long I've known you. You're not my responsibility. They're my responsibility. Why do I want to ever introduce somebody on a relationship that you're not finding in once in 100 lifetimes to possibly get them involved in something that might be risky, that could lose them opportunity, money, damage my reputation, credibility? No, I stay in my lane. It's the personal relationship, and we focus on marketing opportunities. So there has never been a friend that will never be a single friend that will ever get an introduction to, a guy like Magic, Hulk, or Goggins, or Ric Flair, or somebody that is in that world. It's not what I do. They've got business managers that handle all of that. Jeannie Buss is a dear friend, the Lakers owner, Mark Cuban. That's why they are dear friends, because there's a personal relationship, there's a deep love and a trust and a bond as well, because they saw me come out of the other side of what I came out of, and wrote a book that became an international bestseller purely to help people. And every single one of them has somebody struggling in their family. Mark Cuban's brother is a former lawyer, Brian. I think he's coming up on 20 years sober. Jeannie Buss, certainly had enough that she experienced around her with family and whatnot. And I'm not here to help my friends per se. Like, nobody did this work but me to get in the middle of the pack and at the forefront of what I do. So, hey, you want to come meet somebody? You want to bring a client, a friend, a family member? They all know I'll jump over backwards to come meet Goggins in the green room, or say a little Hulk or Magic or Larry Bird, whoever that, might be, or Chevy Chase. But, nobody's going to come into my world and start trying to look for opportunities for themselves, because for me, like I said, it's the relationship first. Making that money is easy, but I'm the one that did the work. I'm the one that put myself in the center. I'm the one that invested in sense of self and me and my business and my brand, and took a lot of risk to get to the point where I'm at. People don't see that, they don't realize that this was not an overnight success thing. This was eventually coming out of business success and then finding real success within myself. So now they're both in alignment.
It was a tactical business success, right? From even when you were younger, you knew how to navigate those conversations around baseball cards. You were able to handle yourself from a very young age and understand, like, this is what I want to do. I understand the conventional way is to go to school, and there's merit to that. But for whatever reason, like, this is what's calling me. This is what I can do. The market's validating it, and the results will speak for themselves. And you have to have serious conversations with high performers at a very young age. And you've alluded to it a few times, the personal relationship aspect. The book also delves deep into it. What do you think makes for an effect? I think your situation's obviously extremely unique because of how you were able to break into the market. But if you had to do it over, and if you had to kind of build that rapport from scratch without that reputation, maybe someone's looking to network the same way you are, build those relationships. We hear a lot about offering value up front. What does that look like to you? How would you do it in today's day and age?
I think it's easier than ever now. I mean, if somebody as a celebrity and artist and athlete, somebody to look up to, it's as simple as message them on Instagram. You never know, you might get a response. You can find out events that they're having. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are private, but there's a bunch of opportunities that are public where, you can get on the VIP list, buy a ticket, be a part of an experience to be somewhere. I never had that. There was no internet, there was no email, there was no text messaging. I grinded it out old school and just wound up finding ways to put myself around the environment I needed to be. And then I leveraged from there, and I always became a sponge. I always knew that, if you have somebody that's a mentor and you can learn from their years of mistakes, but also gravitate to years of success, it's going to save you a ton of time and a ton of money. And you're getting a better education that they can never teach you in college.
And now that you're in this stage and you reflect on all your success and how you pay it forward and people that you've inspired, what do you think is next for you?
I mean, the business is, like I said, the business is taken off. Thank God. We're always doing great things at Prince Marketing Group. Yesterday, I just announced with my private equity group partners, Jimmy Amorosis from Livingston, Dominique Wilkins is a partner, Kevin Harrington, the Shark Tank judge, is a partner. We have a private equity group. We just did a partnership with out of San Diego, Cypress Extended, and that has a mission base to it too. We're all invested into all the same projects. We are looking for ways to make sure athletes don't fall into financial ruin, depression, mental health issues when they retire, because a lot of times they lose their identity. There's an expectation that athletes die twice. So now, as part of this collaboration with Cypress Legacy Group, which is the new private equity fund, it's a great opportunity for us to have a mission where athletes can make sure they focus on financial literacy, wealth preservation, and they'll actually have opportunities, whether it's on the executive side, board of advisory side, spokesperson side, with all these companies and opportunities to go to invest in. So it can really help because it's so super easy for people to look and be like, what do I need to get that guy through 200 million? None of these guys have handbooks for a woman on how to deal with life when success comes at a very young age. And they trust way too many people, and that happened to me. So I think that's a beautiful thing that I was able to expand into something deep into the financial sector, and also, having the ability now with some substantial resources behind us as a private equity group. We're going to focus on minorities and people that have tougher upbringings that don't know how to properly patent a product or trademark a product. And we've got one of the all-time great entrepreneurs, Kevin Harrington, is the original Shark Tank judge, who's behind the George Foreman Grill and Celsius from the ground up. That's now $5 billion companies, sold upwards of $8 billion in consumer products, mission-based again, that he'll have the opportunity to do these pitch a shark events that I'll be a part of from behind the scenes and raise financing for people that have innovative ideas and products and initiatives. So everything I do now has to have some sort of mission component. It's not just money driven, because I think if you focus on the mission itself, the back end is the success component will always come. 20, 30 years ago, it was never that way. It's the money. That doesn't work that way.
They say certain things happen to certain people because they can handle it. And you can go through certain life experience and people can benefit from your experience. I know in reading your book and studying your career, I mean, you had to make so many adjustments and adapt to your circumstances, whether it was social or personal or political. There's been so many different waves and themes that have come across your career that you've created this level of versatility that helps you be extremely useful when crisis hits. When I mean, you've carved out. From my understanding, you carved out this niche of like post career careers for certain athletes, and like you were saying, their identities. They got kind of tied up in it as an athlete, and you kind of saved them from those identity crises. And when you're carving out that space, when you're helping people in the way that you do, operating from that mission, what are some of your focuses and your principles as you design the parts of the business now for Prince Marketing Group? You talked about mission, but what else is at the forefront of your mind?
Obviously, are still looking for opportunities to stay relevant, further their brand outside of sport or whatever entertainment field they've been in. Mine was with Charlie Sheen 2 days ago. It's a dear friend and client for 8 years. He's doing great. He's got 7 years sober. The next day I was with Magic at Goggins on Saturday. They all have some level of conscious awareness to a mission. But at the end of the day, too, we also all met through business opportunities. So those are always a strong focal point as well. But it's got to be something that's brand aligned. It's got to be something that makes sense when these guys all get older, whether it's Hulk or Rick or Chevy. It's got to be something that, is really authentic and something that, whether it's near and dear to them, something that they believe in, or if it's a certain project that I can look at and elaborate and explain to them why I feel it's something for their legacy that's good and strong to be a part of. They all trust me and my decision-making ability to kind of talk through things and see what makes the most sense. So that's another, part of what my focus is, because clearly I have to, still, make sure opportunities are coming in for the clients. I've got 9, 10 employees, agents, assistants, and I just enjoy now filtering my knowledge and my wisdom down to them and seeing them get excited about creating opportunities for the clients, because that's just kind of what my dad taught me, and Magic, Irvin, I call him by his real name, it's Irvin Magic Johnson, that he, told me in 1994, he wants me to use him to open up every door possible, that he's going to be a success in the world of sports that they've never seen as retired athletes. And it's not about how successful he can become, it's how successful he can make me and everybody else around me. Then he expects me to do the same and pay it forward to other people. So that's just so exciting for me when I'm able to do that too, when I'm able to train my team, my staff, and educate them with everything I've learned and just see them execute, create opportunities is just, it's like magical, no pun intended, when that happens.
That's how you empower people. That's leadership, right? That's vision. That's the ability to inspire and lead a purpose-driven mission through action and by example. I was speaking with Jeffrey Kessler last week. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a famous sports attorney, well-known sports attorney, represented Tom Brady in Deflategate, represented Ron Artest. He's represented Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. And I asked him about some of the commonalities or some of the traits that he had a front row seat to experience when he was working with them. In your experience, working with all the celebrities, athletes, high performers, if you will, what are some of the common themes, traits, trends that you've acknowledged and have rolled up into your skill set?
They all have had moments and stories that I've heard with this elite mindset that just an unstoppability. It's they have an addiction to their heart and soul. It's so much deeper that it makes me look at friends I grew up with that were athletic, and some are high school stars, some made it to college, scholarships and whatnot. But then when you get to spend time around, and there's so many other names I haven't mentioned, Joe Montana's been my guy for 30 years. I mean, I hear these stories, and now I realize why my friends that I thought were great high school quarterbacks never got anywhere, because it's a whole different level, man. It's a whole different animal. They breathe it, live it, sleep it. Those pivotal moments, those championship moments. The mindset is everything. It's so much more than the physical ability. It's thinking 2-3 plays ahead. It's hearing stories from Smoking Joe and Muhammad Ali on what their mindset was for the fight of the century going into it, and then Thrilla Manila. And, just hearing it, it's just so inspiring and such an honor for me to have heard those stories. And Hulk, when he knew he slammed Andre the Giant, how his life was going to change forever at WrestleMania 3, and how that all went down in a day that Andre wasn't feeling great at all, but he still passed the torch to Hulk, and what Hulk had to do to train his mind to make sure he didn't get hurt in the ring, slamming a guy that was 700 pounds, and still having such gratitude after the moment happened. Him and Andre were crying in the locker room, and the torch was passed. I've got countless stories. Joe Montana told me about, and this really could happen. I think it was Super Bowl 19 versus the Cincinnati Bengals, when he had to go like 95 yards with a minute to go to win the Super Bowl. And John Candy was on the sideline, the late actor, comedian, eating popcorn. And he needed to get his offensive line to relax, to be in a very Zen mindset, but focused, to go the 95 yards to win the Super Bowl. And he told Harris Barnes, his center, hey, look over there, John Candy's on the sideline eating popcorn. He goes, that was it. He goes, that moment just basically brought us all together, because Harris was always so excited to meet different celebrities, even though they were the defending world champions. But just to know, to hear and understand doing something like that little moment behind such a historic moment that the rest of us watch on television around the world, to just think and use this more than anything, because it really isn't the physicality. It's the mental preparation of what you do in those pivotal moments. Use that moment.
I've learned so much. I know the audience has as well. There's a question that I posed to all my guests that I'd like to pose to you before we round this thing out. If the future version of yourself from 10 years from now were to fly in and offer you some advice in order to get there, what do you think he would say to you?
Keep being of service to other people, and then abundance in life will come.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Darren Prince, thank you so much for today.